Hi everyone, a warm welcome to this session on getting into ISB. I know all those who are from India, ISB is most likely at the top of your bucket list. Like everyone, even when I remember when I had not done my MBA, my dream was to get into the top B school in India, which happens to be ISB and the IIM ABC. So this session is going to be really exciting. We're going to learn a lot about ISB. You might know that ISB is the best school. But how do you get into ISB? Like, how does it compare with other colleges like the IIMs, and what are the career opportunities that you get? What is the admission process all about? And a lot of other things. And we have invited ISB Alum, who has completed his MBA with ISB this year in the interview here. So this is going to be a different kind of a session compared to some of the previous admission consulting sessions that you might have seen on our platform. So this is going to be slightly different. We're going to talk about the process. We are also going to talk about learn from an ISB Alum. So it's going to be a mix of both the things. So a warm welcome to all of you who have joined me. I see about 8 people live in the session. So guys, if you can hear me loud and clear, it will be great to go ahead and say yes in the chat, and do share a little bit about yourself, who you are, what is that you do, what is your goal, from let's say with respect to the target B school that you are looking at, and what stage are you at present in terms of your applications. So that will be great to know, and I can actually take up questions that you might have. So please feel free to share any questions at any point of time. I'll take up your questions as and when the right time arrives. So please feel free to share any questions. We are going to keep it very interactive. We have invited an ISB Alum for the same reason, so that he can answer as many questions that you have about the ISB application process, about ISB in general. Hi Shivam, thank you for sharing just saying a hi here. I hope you are able to hear me. No one has said a yes till now, so I'm not sure if you guys are able to hear me, but I am hopeful that my audio should be working fine. So yeah, without any further ado, let's get going into the session. So how have we structured the session? So a quick overview of the structure first. So first we'll talk just a little bit about what is that we do at GMAT and our services. Then we'll talk about ISB at a glance. Some of you who don't know a lot about ISB, I'll help you understand a bit about it from some of the important statistics that you should keep in mind. And in fact, ISB is one of the really good options. I'll actually share some stats which some of you might even not have thought of overall. And I'll share some perspectives of mine as well around the same. Then we'll go into the ISB MBA Experience, where we'll invite the ISB Alum Vamshi, who is with us. He'll share his MBA experience journey. He'll talk about his cohort. He'll talk about his learning opportunities and career opportunities as well. So as a part of the process, we'll get into the admission process and tips from Vamshi. I will also show you the statement of purpose which Vamshi submitted, the entire process that he followed for the application, so that you can take tips from the same. And then we'll go to the career opportunities at ISB. We'll talk about career opportunities. We will pick up questions like what kind of companies come at ISB? Is ISB really well known for finance? And a lot of other questions. And please feel free to ping and share your questions with us. The more interactive, the better it is. And if you are coming to our session, channel for the very first time, do give it a like and then subscribe to our channel, so that we get motivated to do more and more such sessions. We are also planning to invite some of the students who have been alums of INSEAD, Kellogg, LBS, NYU Stern, Wharton, Harvard in the coming months. So do give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you would like to stay tuned for the updates. So let's get going. So who are we? GMAT as a brand, we started with pioneering GMAT preparation through AI personalization. That is the key preparation that we started with way back in about 2019, and that's when we changed the outlook towards the entire industry towards GMAT preparation. We introduced a new way of studying for GMAT, which was very personalized using technology. Before we came into the industry, everyone was just thinking about delivering a course, and we started focusing on how to make that course personalized and focus on you rather than giving everyone the same content. That's where we started our journey with, and we have helped a lot of students get into their dream B schools, not just for the GMAT, but with respect to their applications as well. And we take pride in saying that we have a 100% success rate in getting interview calls for students from their dream B schools, from their target B schools. That's a amazing number. That's 100%, and they really take pride in that. and we have a 98% success rate in B-school conversion. The 2% that you see is not there is just because one of our students is waitlisted with LBS still. So unless we hear from LBS, this is going to stay at 98%. Who knows, this can convert into 100% as well in a week or so. So that's about GMAT viz in a brief. Let's now move to ISB, some stats which are very, very important. Now, some of you might know that ISB is ranked really, really high. But how good ISB in reality is? It ranks 32. This is FTA MBA rankings, which I'm referring to. Obviously, different rankings rank different colleges differently. But ISB ranked way up there, 32 globally and number 4 in Asia. So that's a very, very high ranking school if you're looking at that. And it competes. It's a great school, not just because of the rankings. The reason the rankings are so good, in fact, it is better than many international colleges, is because of the international curriculum and the international faculties at ISB. We will definitely hear from Vamshi about some of the international faculties also. But that takes ISB a long way into the rankings. The second thing, and this is probably one of the, I'm not sure how many of you are aware of this. So let me ask you this question. How many of you, there are around 15 of you who are in the session right now, how many of you are aware that ISB has the highest global jump in salary in terms of percentage? How many of you knew that? That's a number which ISB is proud of. It's not easy to achieve highest global jump. What we are trying to communicate over here is that when you do MBA from an ISB, the difference that it creates is so significant that everything else that you have done in your career till now dwarfs in front of that. That's what we're talking about. Highest global jump in salary, even after having a batch of about 900. That's what ISB has been able to achieve. The primary reason for that has been twofold, in my opinion. One, they have been very, very selective with the way they pick up students. They ensure that they give good opportunities to all variety of students. There are a lot of software engineers also who apply, and they still get selected at ISB, but their process is very rigorous. They look for specific qualities in the people who apply, and they also ensure that they have an amazing, amazing curriculum where they train people, and it's a very rigorous curriculum. I'm going to invite Vamshi, and we're going to hear from him as well. But when he joined ISB, I remember him telling me that I used to have my, I shouldn't say trimester also, where term exams every 6 weeks. And every week he had some exam or the other, right? It is so crazy. And that's one of the reasons when you complete an MBA from ISB, you turn out to be a very, very different student. You might think that, okay, I'm getting commission from ISB to actually convince you about it, but it's that great a school, trust me, and that's why has been able to achieve this tag of highest global jump. Now, if you are looking at consulting and tech, now these are two very big things. Like consulting, most of the people nowadays want to join consulting. The MBBs of the world, about 33% of the batch of ISB last year got placed in consulting. Around 28% of them got placed in tech, roles like product management, product architecture designer, product marketing manager, things like these. So 28% of the people went into tech. That's a huge, huge number. We're talking about 61% of the entire batch joining two of the most sought after profiles in the industry at present. So that's how good ISB is as when it comes to placements. The average experience in ISB is about 4 years. So if you're applying with anything around that number, that's the sweetest spot. And we'll talk about that. We'll hear that from Vamshi as well. How was his experience around that? But in general, even if you have about 8-9 years of experience, you can still get into ISB if you write your story well. We'll talk about the cohort with Vamshi again. I'm saying that, repeating that again and again. But we'll talk a lot about the class, understand if you are in a different age group. So if anyone, like I see 15 people over here, if any one of you is in a different age group, let's say you have more than 8 years of experience, feel free to go ahead, share the number of years of experience you have in your profile, and we'll ask Vamshi if he found anyone in his batch who had a similar experience. That will actually answer your question whether you can get into ISB or not. And the average salary of ISB students is about 27 lakhs per annum. Okay. Now, obviously, the average is influenced by the highs and lows as well, both extremes as well. But when it comes to the I think the top 20-30% of the batch, their numbers are amazing. In fact, sometimes, and again, I want to cover this in depth as we move forward in the session. But if you really want to make a career, even if you really want to actually immigrate, and you don't want to spend, let's say, a CR or a 1.5 CR in education in US, you might as well choose your career in India with ISB, get into a top brand like the MBBs of the world, and then laterally move within the company to a location like US, which is very common for big corporates like MBBs and all. So that is something which can help you save a lot of money, that can reduce the risk of all the visas. You coming back to India with a huge loan, and you making a great career out of yourself. So that's another thing which I will touch upon as we move forward. So I don't see anyone with more than 8 years of experience saying anything in the chat. I hope all of you are there with less than 8 years of experience, which is rare, but yeah, I'm assuming that for the moment. So let's move to the next. Then what does profile really mean? So when you're applying to a B school, a lot of people ask me, Piyush, what does that matters? Like, how does a B school really, let's say, evaluate a candidate? What does it look for in a candidate? So let me first take that up, because there would be some people who will be very new in their journey on the application process. So they might need to learn this. Those of you who are already advanced in the journey, probably you know some of it, but it will be a great refresher. So let's look at it. So the usual things most people think is GMAT score, how important it is, and in the context of ISB, if you are an engineer, if you are a male engineer from general category, obviously categories doesn't really play a role in case of ISB, because there's no reservation over there. But if you're an engineer, you're a male, you definitely need 720 kind of a number. That's like the average for the engineers. Like the average of the entire batch is around 710. The work experience, duration, very important, and nature of job. It should not be just duration. Again, if you have less than 2 years of work experience, you cannot even apply to ISB. If you have more than 8-9 years of experience, your chances of getting in also reduces significantly. So the duration is important. The nature of job is even more important. What is that you did? What were your achievements in that? Your academic excellence also speaks for yourself. Your UG GPAs matter a lot. Your extracurriculars matter a lot. Okay, that's about the usual way. Then you have to showcase through your profile. Again, these are data points that you have. Okay, you have to convert these data points into essays, into stories. Okay, and when you're doing that, two things which matter a lot to ISB specifically are the ones which I have highlighted on the screen as well. That is proven leadership qualities and goal alignment. Your goals should be very well aligned. Like, what is your long-term career goal? What is your short-term career goal? And what all have you done till now? And it should be a very clear path. Again, I'm going to go in depth of that as we move forward. Leadership capabilities. Probably the most important skill that ISB is looking at is your leadership capabilities. They want real leaders to join the school. And you have to make sure that through whatever way, you have to showcase that to them. Okay. Now, international mindset and outlook, if you have some experience of working internationally, or you have worked with international clients, that's a big plus. Not a real must for ISB at least, but for a lot of international schools, that's important as well. Okay, so that's about a quick overview about the profile. Now, let me talk a little bit about Vamshi. Okay, so we're going to invite him really soon, in another minute or so. Now, I remember when we first interacted, Vamshi is now an ISB Alum. He's completed his MBA this year itself. But when we first interacted, it was way back in November 2019, if I remember correctly, October or November of 2019. And before knowing about GMAT-Res or getting in touch with GMAT-Res, Vamshi had prepared for a year for GMAT. He had a 570 on GMAT. Okay. He had only 2 years of experience, that too at Infosys as a software engineer. So he was a GEM, basically. Those of you who don't know this acronym, GEM is basically a general engineer mail. Like you can call it, like most of the people in India who apply to these schools come from a very competitive profile, which is software engineers, computer science engineers, or IT engineers. Vamshi was in that very high competitive pool, and he had a 570 on GMAT attempt after 1 year of prep. Now, many of you, and again, I'm asking this question, I want you guys to just say a yes or no on this. How many of you would have felt that, okay, this is the end of the road, or how many of you would have felt low at this point of time if you were in Vamshi's place? Many people do that. Many people even give up. I spoke to a student yesterday. He had been preparing for CAT, then he prepared for GMAT, for about 4-5 months. He scored a 470 on his mock test. And he was super demotivated. He was asking me questions, which can I actually do it? A lot of people have those self-doubts. Now, why am I telling you all this? The reason I'm telling you all this is because this guy who I'm going to invite very soon, this guy had actually changed his entire career, his entire life with his sheer determination and perseverance. He went through this grind, he went through the entire process, made sure that he improves one step at a time, understands in depth, learns about the entire process, and actually achieves his goal. And let me show you what he was able to achieve. Within 6 months of meeting us and changing his thought process towards GMAT and his applications, he worked with GMAT Quiz for both GMAT preparation as well as his application as well. So at that point of time, he was able to achieve a 720 on GMAT in less than 6 months. And this timeline would have been much more shorter had COVID not happened. So when Vamshi was just about to get ready to take the GMAT, the first wave of COVID hit and the test centers was closed, everything was closed, and we had no clue when GMAT is going to happen. That was a very big break in the continuity that he had. But still, he was able to get to the 720 in less than 6 months. He sat back, he identified the one good thing that I loved about Vamshi was his perseverance and his thought process. He very clearly knew that ISB has 2 years of work experience. He hails from Hyderabad, so obviously he has been seeing ISB from probably his college days or even school days, I don't remember. But yeah, probably he had those dreams, and he knew that for ISB I need to have minimum 2 years of experience. And he worked with Infosys for 2 years just to get that work experience done. But he realized that he needs to project himself as his long-term career goals really clearly in front of ISB. And he worked with us, understood that probably a product manager is something which he likes, he would want to become in the long run. And that's something which he can even sell to ISB as a very good goal. And he didn't just think about, okay, telling that as a story or just as a goal to ISB. He actually took a step towards it. He joined a startup in the same role to show intent to ISB, to show intent by telling them that he can do it and he wants to really do it. And now he's placed with OYO as a product manager, one of the unicorns of India. As a product manager, he has achieved his goal, gotten into India's best college, gotten his dream come true. So let me invite him now. I know I have made you wait 17 minutes to invite Vamshi here, but Vamshi, tell me about like your journey. How did it feel when you converted ISB, and then probably when you saw your dream of product management coming true? How does it feel now compared to where you were earlier?
Thank you so much, Piyush. There have been certain milestones. Like, for example, when I saw that first score of GMAT 720, uh, all the hard work of that 6 months or so, like, felt like, that was nothing. Like, I knew that spending 6 months for GMAT and that COVID break has been a lot, and I was not even sure if I can, score that 720, and if I can see that seven in that 100 digit, in that 3 digit score. But when I saw that, it was like I don't remember any of the hard work, and after that, once I submitted the application, I was still not sure whether I'll be able to convert, whether I'll be able to get the shortlist or not. But once I got that mail, it was again a real moment. And I think I think you know this. Like, if I think you remember this. Once we got the shortlist from the ISB, I remember discussing it with you. I'm really not sure, how to go about the interview process, and the discussion we
Yeah.
had about that, and the repetitive mock interviews we had, and after that, when we got the admission letters from ISB, I was really happy. And the ISB dream has been there for more than a couple of years, and when I saw that admission letter, I was really happy. And all that years of hard work has really paid off. And uh, that was something, you know i uh, I know that I cannot express in words. So I think
Hmm.
when you are so patient and persistent about your dream and you focus on the process, I think that is what everyone deserves. And I think I was really happy at that point of time.
I can totally relate to that. In fact, I have been through you in the entire journey of seeing you all the way from that 570 on GMAT to 720. We used to have calls every 2 weeks, if I remember correctly,
Correct.
when you were in GMAT preparation mode. And then after that, like for your applications, we used to interact almost every other day. And I remember the interview thing. Again, this is something which is very personal to Vamsi, but I remember our first interview, mock interview that we have had, and I told Vamsi upfront that if this is how you're gonna give the interview, ISB is not gonna take you in for sure. And but the one thing which I loved about Vamsi was he never ever gave up. He was like super motivated. He worked really hard. And I remember like it took us 4 mock interviews, right? If I'm not wrong, like it was the
Correct.
4th one where after which you were like, okay, now we are good. And every
Correct.
mock we used to see like some improvement, and that interview and that interview was very critical, because if we did not have the right interview, every other effort, that 720 on GMAT, the entire application, everything will fall apart. So kudos for that. Really happy to see you growing. So let's continue moving on, and let's talk about ISB in depth with our students today. So let's talk about your ISB experience, and I'll divide it into, let's say, 4 broad areas. How was your cohort, like generally? Like, just tell us about your cohort, the batch that you had in the 2022 year.
I would love to talk about it, but there are some limitations because me being an introvert, I could not interact with many of the people. But as far as I knew, like there were many people. Like there was a doctor, like and even there was one person who worked in army for almost 15 years and wanted to pursue her
Okay.
MBA and joined ISB. And apart from that, there were many profiles such as chartered accountant, CFA, and obviously engineers are always there. And apart from that, there were people from marketing background, and if I remember uh, um, uh, uh, I think that was it. Like I think if you keep going on, I think the profile keeps, like the diversity keeps building on. So I think ISB loves diversity. So if you are coming from a different background, I think you have to be really happy, and it has to be one of your strengths to showcase in your ISB interview. So uh,
So let me ask you
so
some specific questions. So, for example, so let's talk about general engineers, right? Engineers and males. Like, what percentage of your batch were from the IT background and were engineers? Approximately, I know you wouldn't have the numbers
correct. Huh.
on your fingertips.
I think almost 40 to 50% were from engineering background.
Okay. So that's a very good, important takeaway for all of you who are watching this live. Those of you who think you are an engineer and you don't have a chance to get into the top schools, think twice. You have a chance. Vamsi is sitting in front of you. He was an engineer from Infosys. He made it to ISB. 40% or 50% of his batch were engineers, that too from IT, still able to make it. So if they can, you can too. It is important that you do the right things in the application. Second question, Vamsi, maybe you can shed some light on that. With respect to, let's say, the lowest GMAT score that you have seen in ISB, like again, who was, like, you don't need to name the student, but yeah, what was the score and what was the profile that you saw?
I mean, there are two aspects into it. Like, as far my circle was concerned, I think the lowest GMAT score which I've known my friend has got was something around 670, 680. But
Okay.
I remember during the onboarding process, we were shown the exact figures like for this present batch. So ISB itself showed the proper range from 580 to 760. So
Okay.
the range is too big, but that doesn't mean that you can easily settle for 580 or 600. The person who might have got 580 or 600 might have a very high amount of experience, must have done very great in his work, had huge or unique extracurricular activities. So that is an outlier. So I would suggest people who are targeting ISB to uh, you know, uh, no, some to target somewhere around 700 to 720. And as far as I know, I think 710 is the average GMAT score for ISB. So if your GMAT score is anywhere around 710, I think you should be good.
Great to hear that. So yeah, very valid point, as Vamsi said, that you should not be taking that 560 or a 580, which was lowest score, for granted, and they say, okay, yeah, GMAT doesn't matter. It does matter. But at the same time, what I wanted to communicate was that there are people who have been able to convert ISB with a lower score. Okay. And you can do that as well if you get the application done correctly. And we are going to talk about the application as well in depth. In fact, after the MBA experience, like we'll get into the application process. So how was your onboarding, Vamsi? Like, what was the experience all about? How was it? You joined in a very different time, like.
Correct. So it was basically hybrid. Like the first 3 months were done online, and after the first 3 months were done, we were moved to the campus. And the people, like, we were given the taste of how the next 1 year is going to be in the first 20 days itself. Like even though the academics don't start in the first 20 days, like there is something called orientation week, and you'll easily understand how hectic the next 1 year is going to be, because the alums, the management, everyone makes sure that you go through that hectic schedules, like starting from right at 8 a.m. in the morning till 10 p.m. in the night, like in the first 20 days itself. Like there are no academics, but it's all just fun activities. Like you get to interact with the alums, you get to know your peers and all. So it's all about making you to adjust to that rigor and hectic schedules. And apart from that, once the orientation week is done, like the normal curriculum starts. And I'm not sure if it's too early to talk about this, but each term is about 1 month in ISB, and you'll have exams every 2 weeks. Like as soon as the term start, you'll have midterm exams in 2 weeks, and as soon as you are done with the midterm exams, you realize that you have to start preparing for the end term exams. So it's really
Oh my
hectic,
gosh.
and you have to be very particular in managing your time.
So how do you find time for anything else? Like if you have exams so often.
Yeah. I thought of speaking about that. Like, I personally couldn't find I thought before getting into ISB, I thought I'll have a pretty good time there, to participate in some extracurricular activities, go to gym every day, play some sport. But as soon as I have gone there, it was coming from an engineering background, it was a little difficult for me to cope up with finance and accounting. So, and as ISB is a 1 year program, it was a little fast paced. So I could not find time to, do anything extra apart from that, apart from academics and all. And adding on to that, I had to participate in a few case competitions, because everyone around you is participating in that, and you have that fear of missing out. And on top of that, you have to start preparing for placements as well. So with all these things going on, you cannot really find, like I personally could not find time for sport or any other extracurricular activities. But having said that, uh, there are many people who manage time pretty well. For example, there have been people from finance background or economics background, so they didn't have to focus much on the academics. For example, they were already well versed with finance or accounting, so they used to concentrate on either case competitions or placement prep, and by the end of the day, they used to have an hour or two to participate in some sports or any other extracurricular activity. So it actually depends, how you're able to cope up with the curriculum and all. So that's how it was.
Okay, and let's talk about some of the courses that you really enjoyed, and like the interactions with professors from foreign universities. I see ISB takes pride in professors coming from Harvard, different top colleges across the globe. So tell us more about those as part of the curriculum.
I think the very first course, which was financial accounting, was taken up by two foreign professors. I don't remember the exact schools from which they were coming, but the very first course was taken by two foreign professors. And apart from that, uh, like the foreign professors keep coming. I think in every term, I think you'll have at least two courses which are taken up by foreign professors, and the professors are really supportive. And I personally, used to be a little scared of all these managerial economics, financial accounting, because of my engineering background. The courses which I really enjoyed was the courses which are based on strategy, leadership, and also those classes would be really interactive. And the kind of teaching and the kind of interaction you get with the professor and the peers, it's really fun to have that kind of engagement in the class. And I would have really enjoyed if that happened in person, but due to COVID and all, we had to do that online. So I hope
Okay.
the present batch is doing that offline.
Okay. So let's talk about one more aspect. A lot of people come and ask us, like ISB has two campuses, the Mohali and the Hyderabad campus. What is the difference between the two campuses in terms of, let's say, let's break it down. Let's first talk about the curriculum. Let's say the professors who go to one campus or the other, and then let's talk about placements also. Like, yeah.
I mean, short answer, like there's no need to divide it into aspects. Use like just one answer. ISB doesn't care about the campus. Like the motto of ISB is two campuses, one life. And
Okay.
to be honest, and when you sit for placements, you're not even allowed to, tell the name of your campus to the companies which you're sitting for. So the
Okay.
opportunities, the teaching, the professors are the same for both the campuses, and there's no difference at all. And we keep interacting with people across the campuses. And previously, before COVID, the Mohali campus people used to fly down to Hyderabad for their placements. But right now,
Okay.
due to COVID, it's happening online.
Okay, okay, okay. So basically, there's no difference at all whether you go to the ISB Mohali campus or
Nothing,
Hyderabad
nothing at all.
campus. All courses are offered in both campuses. Everything,
Yes, yes, yes.
electives and
Yeah.
everything is.
Yes, yes.
Okay, great, great. So let's go into the next part of our session now. So let's get into the admission process. So we'll talk about Vamsi's application journey, and as a part of it, we're going to tell you the different essays of ISB, and we'll even show Vamsi's SOP as well. But at a high level, Vamsi, when you were starting your application journey, how did you go about the entire process? What was your thought process? How did you go about it?
Before starting the journey, like ISB honestly felt like a long shot. And I knew there were multiple aspects such as GMAT score, academics, work experience, and extracurricular activities. I knew I had a decent academics, and at that point of time, I had around 2 years of experience. I knew that was the mandatory work experience I need, and that was all I looked for. And as soon as I got that, I quit my job at Infosys, and I thought cracking GMAT would be much easier than it actually was. So, but the reality was a little harsh. So, but this was the vague idea I had. But what really went into the application, what I need to put in the essays, what I need to put into the application letter of recommendation was not very clear to me. So I really needed a person or an expert who could guide me through that. And I think, as you told, after getting 570 in November 2019, I think I got in touch with you, and from then it has been a different journey.
Okay, so basically, the first thing which basically we need to focus on when we work on the application, as Vamsi said, that he knew that his goal is to get into ISB. But what is very important is to have clarity around the target. You need to understand exactly what is that you are going to tell the school. So basically, what exactly are your long-term goals? What exactly are your short-term goals? And this is something which is very, very critical. I see people taking the application process so lightly. And I don't blame any one of them. I don't blame any one of them because the way we have been brought up in India is very simple. You score well on the test. Okay, you score well on IITs, you get a rank, and you're getting into the school. That's all. Your score is all that matters. You score 100%, you are getting rejected by DU. Jokes apart, but still, you know that this is a score that you get, and you're entitled to get into a school. So that's how we feel. That's how our mindset has been from childhood. And a lot of people come to me and say, okay, Piyush, you know what? I've done my GMAT and ISB application deadline is like 7 days away from now. I'm going to write my application in 7 days. I've actually seen people, and I was just looking at my old chat with one such person who pinged me on the day of the ISB application. Like it was the last day of submission, and he sent me an essay to review and share my thoughts on the same. And I went through the essay, and I was like, yeah, this is like half an hour's work maximum. You have put in half an hour's work to apply to a school which is India's #1 school, and you're going to spend your entire career based on this degree, right? So you're that serious about your goals. That is something which is a common mistake which many people do. They don't take the application seriously. And trust me, guys, ISB rejects people with 740, 750s also. I know people personally who have been rejected by ISB at that kind of a score as well. Your score does not entitle you for a place in ISB. Very important for you to understand is that you need to have that target clarity. ISB specifically is a college which is going to look at you as someone who actually has done in-depth research of what they want to do and actually have taken some steps. Your MBA should not be the first step towards your final goal. And that's one of the biggest reasons when Vamshi started working with us. In the very beginning, even when he was, he basically enrolled for GMAT and applications both with us. So when he was preparing for GMAT, at that point of time itself, we sat, we worked on his profile, we decided that, okay, you have done work in Infosys, you have taken some career break, you are for studying on GMAT, focusing on GMAT, but probably this career break is not going to look great also if you kind of stretch it for too long. And within a month or so of his career break, he joined back, he identified a startup where he could work in product manager role because that's what he wanted to do in the long run. And we felt that the skills that he brings to the table, the kind of experiences that he had in the past, we can probably do a very good job at the product management story. So what I'm trying to tell you over here is that it's not just about thinking about your story when you write down your essays. It starts right when you are preparing for your GMAT or GRE as well. You should not wait for the GRE or GMAT to be done or your application deadline to be just around the corner to start thinking about your targets. Start thinking about it now. Take time for that and have clarity on that. So that was the first step which Vamshi took. Then only, like obviously GMAT was also something which came in between. So I'm not taking that into account because like that's not a part of the app. It's a part of an application, but not the application documents that you need to submit. So essays is what Vamshi worked on. And then we worked on the resume and LORs and finally the interview prep. So I'm going to focus on the second and the fourth one because those are like very, very important and very crucial. So let's get going on that. So target clarity I already talked about. Very important that you should understand the difference between your short-term and the long-term goals. Have a clear short-term goal and as clear as possible long-term goal. It's okay for you to be a little undecided about exactly which sector you want to get into or which company you want to get into or what kind of role you want to get into, but at least you should be knowing about what is that you want to do in the long run. You can always fine tune a little bit. Obviously, if you're very specific, then it's the best thing that you can do. But what you need to understand is that you need to look at the entire roadmap. You need to look at the target. This is what I want to achieve. And every single step that you take should be towards that target. And MBA should be sitting somewhere in between that, should not be the first step. Okay, MBA should be sitting somewhere in between that, then your short-term goals, then your long-term goals, and whatever you've done till now should be before MBA. And you need to look at all the skills. You need to create a skill map in a way which helps the B school understand that you are someone who's a very structured person. You have thought of all the steps, and I want to show that to you. So basically in ISB, generally there are two essays that we ask. One essay has been almost the same since I don't remember how many years. But yeah, that's your SOP, primary essay, the most important essay, which is what are your short-term and long-term career goals? How will a program at ISB assist you in that? And the second essay is basically about, now they've changed it. Earlier, during Vamshi's time and like the batches that we have interacted with earlier was around leadership skills. But now they're testing you on this question, which is about peer learning. It says peer learning is a major building block at ISB, help in understanding how you will be able to add value to the PGP peer group through your personal and professional qualities. So in simple terms, what they are asking you is, why should we choose you? Basically, okay, that's the translation of this question. You can focus on peer learning, but it's important, why should we choose you? So this is an answer where you sell yourself. Obviously, the first one is also where you sell yourself, but this one is very, very critical. You can talk about your leadership skills. You can talk about you being a team leader, you being a team player, you bringing something new to the table. There are multiple ways to answer this question, but it's very important that you understand the core of the question and you bring out your persona in this one. So let's look at the SOP of Vamshi. So again, Vamshi, this is like long back. You remember this?
Yeah.
We worked and this, by the way, was an outcome of what? 20 days of effort, if I'm not wrong. Like
Yeah, like I think somewhere around 3 weeks we were running short of time and the application deadline was coming closer. So we finally were satisfied with this draft and we moved ahead
went
with
ahead.
this.
Right. So again, those of you want to take a screenshot, pause the video later on and watch it. You have the entire, like this is first part of it. I'll show you the second part as well. But what I'm trying to show you over here is many people just get into the question directly. They're like, okay, I have to tell them my short-term goal, I have to tell them my long-term goal, and how ISB program is going to assist you. So most people start with, okay, my short-term goal is to do this, my long-term goal is to do this. But that's not what the B school is looking for. The B school is looking for someone who has thought about the entire process. You should be able to connect the dots. You should be able to tell them, give them a perspective. Because see, even before they interview you, this is the place where they're going to form an opinion about you. This is the first interaction that they're going to have with you. You are much more than your CV, your resume. That is what ISB understands. So this is where you need to give a reflection. So if you have an average background, so again, if you are from a competitive pool like IT engineers, software engineer, or you're not from a top MNC, you're not from private equity, venture capital, investment banking or consulting, you are a general Joe. You can still make a difference, make an impact through the essay. That's where you need to focus on. And that's what you see. If you see the first para, the first para we just talk about something that Vamshi stands for. We talked about life being an endless process of self-discovery. Now you need to understand that everything which is mentioned over here is very, very decisive. After a lot of decisions, we have actually arrived at that. It's very particular. We are focused on self-discovery. We focused on stopping and retrospecting and taking all the time because we wanted to build a story. We wanted to build the story. We wanted to AdComs to understand that after a lot of introspection, Vamshi has understood what does this really stand for. And you give a background. You don't just talk about your short-term and long-term goals. You give them a background. In the second para, we give them that background. We tell them how did the thought process of entrepreneurship or let's say creating innovative solutions. Entrepreneurship is not just about starting your own venture. Entrepreneurship is also about solving problems. So we gave an example. Where did the trigger happen? The trigger is very, very important for these schools. We started with the trigger. We drove the point across through different examples like, okay, case studies and taking part in activities such as finding solutions to effectively market a product and sales, gave him a new perspective. And he was amazed to see how entrepreneurs found innovative solutions for people's life. The keyword here is innovative ways. Innovative ways is what we wanted to focus on. We are building a picture, we are painting a picture in the AdComs mind, in the subconscious, that Vamshi is someone who looks at innovations, innovative ways of solving problems. Okay, and I've highlighted another part which you can see in bold and big letters because that's the persona that you want to communicate. My first job at Infosys allowed me to interact with users, understand their struggles, find solutions to their problem. However, my role was restricted. Now, when we talked about this, we had another essay, leadership essay, where we reflected this part. We talked about a solution that Vamshi did, identification of a solution in Infosys as well, that helped the organization to solve a lot of problems, not necessarily the organization alone, but more importantly, the customers and the employees who were working with him to actually do a better job. So he shows where he started from, how he utilized his thought process over there, and how he thought that he needs to do it at a bigger scale. And in order to do that, he moved to an early stage startup. He talks about that as a product manager. He shows that he wants to become a product manager in the long run. And we talk about then some innovative product features. So again, this is something that's substantiated through the other essay where we elaborated. Over here, we couldn't elaborate the product features, the innovations that he has done, because obviously there's a limit of 400 words. So you have to be very, very prudent, very, let's say, smart in the way you put up things. You have to give them cues, but you have to place the right things at the right places. So in terms of innovative product solutions, there was a very great example that Vamshi had in his career, where he was able to actually turn the startup around completely. He was able to help the startup become cash flow positive within 8 months of launch, which is a very big thing in the startup world. And we talked about that thing in depth in the other essay. Over here, we just gave a pointer, basically. And then we showcase that what are the framework, what are the learnings that he had, and what are the skill gaps that he felt when he was working as a product manager. And then we get into the specifics of the answer. So if you see, out of the 400 words, probably the first 250 words, we have not even answered the question. The question was, what are your short-term and long-term career goals? We have not answered the question, but we have painted a picture, we have painted a story that the AdCom will remember. And understand, guys, why do stories work? Why do stories work? We could have simply said that this is a long-term and the short-term career goal. Stories make your point, make you stick in the person's mind. Okay, like in your childhood, you would have probably heard the story of the hare and the tortoise. Someone could have just told you that, okay, slow and steady wins the race. If someone just told you slow and steady wins the race, you would have probably forgotten that in 5 days or so. But you still remember, the moment someone says slow and steady wins the race, you still remember the hare and the tortoise story. That's what storytelling does to you. It makes things, it etches things in your memory. That's what it does. And that's what you should be doing in your essays. That's very, very critical, guys. And that's what we focused on. And then when we go to the next, like the last part, we focused on the short-term goal. We focused on the long-term goal. We clearly mentioned exactly what Vamshi wants to do. And then we went into depth about the ISB PGP program. And this is also another important thing. You should not just, so I see essays where I can actually replace an ISB with an IIM and the essay will work. Okay, there are many people who do that. Okay, they have the same essay for an ISB and IIM, Ahmedabad and the Bangalore. They'll just change the name of the school. Sometimes they will not even change Hyderabad. They'll keep IIM Ahmedabad in the Hyderabad campus there. They'll just change a few things and submit the essay. Never ever make that mistake, guys. You need to do in-depth research on the schools, and that's what Vamshi did. So all that you see in the last para, Vamshi sat through the entire ISB curriculum, looked at the courses, and this is something everyone should be doing, because you are investing in your career, guys. You are investing so much money, so much time in it. You don't want to get it wrong, right? You need to understand whether the school is really adding value to you, and that is something which also excites you. It motivates you to actually give your best. It strengthens your why to get into the school, right? So you need to be very specific. He focused on identifying the courses that were actually related to what he wanted to do and what he wanted to actually learn as part of the various skills that he should be developing as a product manager. Now, what does this showcase? The AdComs? It showcases the AdComs that as his through his journey as a product manager in a startup that he has done in the last 7-8 months or whatever, he was able to identify the gaps that he has. So he's someone who, given the right exposure, understands, he's able to understand his own skills, he's able to understand his own shortcomings, and he's willing to work on that. That's the other image that we are going to create. So try and understand so many different feelings that we are generating through those limited 400 words. So every single word which is there, every single line which is there has to be chosen well. So some of you might think, okay, 21 days, Piyush, you work on a 400-word essay. That's the outcome that you see. That's very important. Again, Vamshi, I was probably a little emotional and I went over the entire thing myself. So yeah, please feel free to.
Yeah, Piyush, you are right on point. One thing which ISB looks when when the admission team goes through the essays is the clarity. I've had an opportunity to go through a couple of essays when I was in ISB, and the goal to join ISB might be growing up the ladder, but that doesn't look good when you put that in an essay. You need to be sure, and you need to have a clear structure of what you are portraying in your essay. So if you see, I have started the trigger in my graduation, and even though I worked as a software engineer in Infosys, I've connected that to my end goal of being a product manager. Even though I've worked as a software engineer, the end goal was to solve the users' problems, and that has motivated me to move into product management. So if you see, that was the structure, and I've seen a couple of essays where the short term goal and the long term goal doesn't match. The long term goal might be might be a larger version of your short term goal, but it shouldn't be completely misaligned with your short term goal. It has to be somehow related with your short term goal. So be sure, like be prepared that you have a proper structure to your trigger, from your trigger to your short term goal and then long term goal, and maintain the proper structure and make sure that you have a proper clarity in your essays. Because the person who is going through the application, for example, the ISB batch has 900 students, so imagine how many applications each round would that admission team get. So the person who is going through the application might read 20 or 30 essays in a particular day. So what can you make in your essay so that the admission committee, the person who's reading your essay, doesn't lose interest in your application? So think in those perspectives and make sure that you have a interesting story to read, and the person who's reading your essay doesn't doze off after reading 3 to 4 lines. Make sure that you have a proper expert who can guide you with it, and make sure that you have some of your friends who are some of your friends from the college, or who are related to MBA, or who might not be related to MBA, go through that essays. And I've seen a couple of essays in which there were spelling mistakes as well. And when there are spelling mistakes, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good at all. So uh, every single word, every single mistake, displays that amount of the amount of interest you have when pursuing your career in ISB. So do not take the essays lightly. And I think everything else Piyush has covered very well.
I'm so happy to hear your thoughts. So that's so imagine an AdCom going through the essay. Then, as Vamshi said, do you want to etch your essay in their memory? It should not be just you. Like, the idea is simple. You should think of it this way: that when I'm writing an essay, if someone else goes through that and he goes through like 500 similar essays in the day, will he remember you? Will he remember you or not? If they will remember you, then they will call you for the interview for sure. They will want to know more about you. So that's how you generate interest, and that's the kind of effort you guys want to put in. And I've seen people putting in a lot of effort for GMAT, like 1.5 years they prepare for GMAT, get their score. Essays, yeah, let's wrap it up in 5 days. Very bad thing. Essay is the main thing you need to understand. GMAT just gets you noticed. Essay is what gets you shortlisted. So that's what you need to understand, guys. So again, in case any one of you, I see some of you are actually talking about your profiles. In case any one of you wants to understand where you stand with respect to your profile at present, how you can actually improve your profile, and what kind of B schools can you target, you can actually connect with us on a profile evaluation call. We give a half-an-hour call on profile evaluation where we charge you $25 for the same, but we will understand in depth about your profile. You can share your CV with us and some other information over the email. Our consultants go through that properly. If they sign a senior consultant, will go through that and understand all about your profile and give you a very good idea of where you stand, what kind of GMAT score will you need, what kind of schools can you target with that. So this is the link. In case any one of you want to go for the profile evaluation call, you can make the payment using this link, and then our team will get in touch with you for the further details. Okay, so that was short about but yeah, the main idea is understand that the entire journey of the SOP has to be done right. You have to start from having target clarity, then moving to essays, LORs, and the final interview prep. So let's go about the interview preparation. So generally, when we work with someone for the interview preparation, there are 3 steps that we always follow. Now, some people just go about taking random mock interviews with others, but it is very important that you should be preparing for that also in a structured format. The first and foremost thing that we believe a student should do, or if you are a GMAT student or a GMAT presentation consulting student, we will do this for you. Research on possible questions based on your profile and your target schools. 2 criteria, remember: your profile, your long-term career goals, and your target school. So there are specific questions which are asked by some schools. There are specific questions which are asked for specific profiles. So you need to get into the interviewer's head and try and poke like what kind of questions he might have had. So first, identify the set of questions, the common questions, basically your important questions, and then finalize your answers. This is important. Now, I'm not sure if Vamshi, if you remember this was long back, but any chance you remember how many questions were there in that Excel sheet that we provided you?
I think I'm not sure if it's right, but I think not less than 30 or 40, I guess.
Right.
Or
So
was it even more?
I think it was about 70 odd, if we include all
Achha,
the,
okay.
let's say, behavioral questions as well.
Yeah, some of
Like
them were
30, 40.
repetitive. Yeah, but yeah.
So how was the feeling when you were asked to write answers to all of that? And I want an honest answer from you, like not sugar-coated
I,
answers. How was your feeling in your terms?
I mean, first, when I thought about the questions, like that was a big task, and after that, you asked me to frame my responses on that, and that was another task. And I thought once I'm done with the responses, okay, my work is done. But when you have gone through the responses, you were like, this response doesn't work. You have to, like, if you say this response, it's not an MBA, it's not an answer which an MBA, incoming MBA and aspirant should give. The response has to be a little more structured. It has to have it should portray that you have a certain clarity why you are doing an MBA, that too from ISB. So that was another task, and I think brainstorming for essays took me around 20 to 21 days. But if I'm right, I think we had only 10 days of time to prepare for the interview. So we had to, that was that this process was a little quick, and we had to wind it up, and because we had to take mock interviews as well. So I think that was a pretty busy day. Like those 2 to 3 days were pretty busy. Like coming up with the questions, coming up with the responses, and again going back and correcting them.
So Vamsi is probably not highlighting this well, but let's put things into perspective. Okay, he's someone who has taken the GMAT in a short span of, like, you can say 6 months was a short span of time because of the COVID uncertainty that was there. Then he worked hard on the applications. Then he has his interview in the next 10 days, and he sees a list of 60, 70 questions for which he has to write answers. Okay. And from his words, you would have probably understood that I was a hard task master when we were working together. So I was like, okay, no, this is not going to work. That is not going to work. And I actually we work together to kind of identify the best answers. Now, many people don't take this very seriously. I've seen people with amazing profiles, like good applications, everything. They get interview calls, they get too happy or too excited, or let's say too lazy sometimes as well. They think, okay, I'm almost getting selected, but and then they fail on, like, they don't do the groundwork on the answers. Trust me, guys. I always say that every single answer, especially the most important questions, which are generally like about 10, 12 of them are the very important ones. For those, your answers should be not just written down, it should be very well practiced. You should hear them out, you should record them, you should hear them out, and make sure that you have actually done a good job at it. So I remember Vamsi had just 10 days. We did 4 mock interviews. The last one was probably one day before his interview, or a couple of days before his actual ISB interview. What was it, Vamsi? Like, you remember that? Like one.
I remember, like, when you just said about recording and hearing it out. I think one major problem which I struggle was I tend to speak a little fast, and I have been habituated to speak like that, and I'm not sure if I'm speaking a little fast right now also, but that was something I had to really work on in those 10 days. And I was not really used to recording my own videos and listening to that. But when you told that, and we already had a limited amount of time, so I had to do that. There was no other option. And whenever we did mock interviews, you used to provide me those recordings as well. So I used to keep going through those mock interviews, identify what the feedback you gave. Like, I still remember you used to give a pretty long feedback in the Word document. And and that used to, like, I was happy that the feedback used to get a little short for like with every ongoing mock interview. But there were a few things which I had to work on for every mock interview. And uh, as you said earlier, the first mock interview went pretty bad, and I was really scared. Like, we have only 10 days of time to prepare, and how am I going to do this? But the structured feedback and the mock interview sessions and the recordings really helped, and that was a very structured way of preparing, I would say.
Hats off to you, honestly. Like, it's not easy to turn things around in that short of period. But the one thing which I loved really about you was that you were very diligent. You were very diligent. You were very hardworking. I give this feedback to a lot of people that you should record your voice, your videos for the interview, and hear it out. Trust me, 50% people don't do that. More than 50% people don't do that. And it's very, very critical, guys. Please make sure, if you're really serious about your interviews, you finalize your answers, get it verified, or let's say get it finalized from by taking some other opinion, an expert opinion if possible. Get the right answers in place, then practice them. See your delivery, look at the structure, and also, like, you can actually understand a lot of things yourself if you record and check it yourself. But if you just say it out loud and don't just retrospect on it, you'll not be able to find out gaps. So you'll be able to understand where I need to cut the flow, change the flow, reduce the content, increase the content, slow the pitch, increase the pitch, all those things, as Vamsi said. So it's very important that you do that. And then mock interviews come into the picture. You should be doing mock interviews. We recommend at least 2 mock interviews. In fact, for people who work with GMAT List, we generally provide 2 mock interviews as part of our service as well. And then other mock interviews can be taken on a paid basis if they want more mock interviews. But we do provide a couple of mock interviews from our side with detailed feedback for the same things, so that you're able to test you on delivery, we're able to test you on different things. And some people think they are great interviewers. Trust me, I've worked with people who have who have great profiles, like amazing profiles. They have probably cracked every job interview that they have taken in their entire life, from the top most companies as well, including the likes of Bain, McKinsey also. But when it comes to talking about themselves, talking about the MBA and other things, there are many cases in which they also struggle to explain the use case there. So it is very important that you take the mock interviews very, uh, let's say, seriously. Now, some interview questions, Vamshi, like if you could recall, like how many rounds of interview? I guess ISB only has one round of interview, right? Just
Yeah, it's
one.
just the one round. Yeah.
And you, like, who are the panelists generally? Alums?
To add on to this, like if you can go to the previous slide,
Okay.
I think we have done around 4 mock interviews, and the first 2 to 3 interviews, I think you were the one you were the only one who took my mock interview. But I'm not sure if it was the third one or the fourth one. Uh, I think even Shakib took the interview. Like you and Shakib took the interview together, and I was a little surprised when I saw you when I saw you both on the panel. But it actually helped because in my actual ISB interview, there were 3 people who took my interview, and apart from them, there was another person from the admission committee. So there were totally 4 people sitting in the interview panel. And even though it doesn't make any difference, it'll be a little over. It's always a little overwhelming to see those many people, interviewing you, and you're not really sure. Like when you say a particular answer, each person will give a different response, and you're not really sure if it's really nice response or not. So I think that one thing really helped me. And coming to the interview questions, I think 3 basic questions which everyone has to be prepared for. One is why MBA, why ISB, and why now. I think these 3 questions, if you are prepared with full clarity, I think that should be good. And apart from that, I think for the ISB interview, 99% of the questions will be asked from the applications you have submitted, like whatever the job responsibilities, the essays, the letter of recommendation you have submitted. I think most of the questions will be asked from the application only. And maybe I was asked a few case-based questions. For example, my long-term goal was to be an entrepreneur, and so I was asked like which industry would you choose if you like imagine it is 10 years from now, and which industry would you choose? I told I would choose a tech industry, something like that. And they were like, in a tech industry there are many fields, like there is competitive exams, there are sectors which focus on school coaching or soft skills and all. So they asked me like which particular sector would you choose, and uh, there is no right or wrong answer. And when interviewers ask you these case-based questions, it's about uh, you know uh, uh, the clarity you have on your long-term goal and the kind of justification you give to that response. So I think being a little prepared on these aspects also would do good. And if you see, like even this was a little related to my long-term goal, which is ultimately related to the essays I've submitted. So make sure that you are 100% prepared with the application, and you know every word you have written in the application and the essays. So I would suggest doing that.
Good, really good inputs, see on that. So please make sure that you are taking all these inputs into account when you're preparing for the interview. So it's very important that you're very thorough with the entire application, because at the end of the day, when ad, uh, like AdCom or even an alumni is looking at interviewing you, that's their point of reference basically. So it's very important for you to follow, and don't ever contradict. That's very wrong. Make sure that it's okay to say you don't know it, or let's say it sounds let's say wrong on what you are saying, but stick to what you are saying. Don't try to change it a lot. Okay. And again, there are cases where it can be changed a bit, but like those have to be taken very in a proper fashion. Okay. So very quickly about just a quick about some of our success stories that GMAT is. We are very proud of. We work with a lot of students. Vamsi is someone who we are really proud of because of the kind of achievement that he had in a very short span of time. He was able to turn around things really fast, especially after having been stuck at a GMAT school for a long time. We're very proud of him. He's live in front of us. There are many other students we have worked with, and some of the examples I'm showing you on the screen. And what we feel pride in is basically the way we are able to kind of help them convert things, punch above their weight as well, because it's important to not just work with a student. You have to understand that person. You have to understand what they stand for. You have to help them guide, help them shape their thoughts in the best way. And I am very proud of two people over here, like on the screen. Again, you see NYU Stern, INSEAD, Kellogg, LBS, and all of that. But I'm proud of Anand and Shinkla much more than probably the others. Obviously, they have converted Ivy League schools, but Anand specifically, I remember, he came to us for the last round of RSM, and he had only 660 on GMAT. He was very short on time, and we remember we worked with him on his applications. He was able to convert RSM, and not just convert RSM. He's right now he has completed his MBA, and he has joined Amazon UK in a leadership role. Very let's say coveted profile. People from even INSEAD and LBS end up being in the same role. And with a 660 on GMAT, he was able to convert RSM, that too in the last round when it's almost impossible for Indians to get in. People with 740, 750s were rejected by RSM that year. Shinkla just had a 630 on GMAT, right? 4 years of experience, was able to convert, was best entrepreneurship college, Papson, was able to convert UBC Sauder in Canada, which is where average GMAT score is 680 and average for Indians is 700 plus. And the main thing which worked in all these cases is the story, that matters. So in case any one of you wants to work with us, you can send us an email on support@gmatness.com and get in touch with us to understand more about our services. And who knows, like you can be the next person that you interview after like a short period of time. And definitely we will love to be a part of your journey and take you to your goal. But yeah, let's now talk about the career opportunities, Vamshi. So again, a few questions targeted. So if others can want to join in and ask any questions from Vamshi, please feel free to do so. But just to understand about some important questions. So I hear that ISB is very good for consulting and even tech. But what about placements in finance? Like how good is ISB for finance? Like let's say for the likes of investment banking, private equity, venture capitals. How good is it?
I think not as many roles as consulting and product management, but I think there are decent number of roles for people who are looking for finance roles, such as investment banking and the other roles you have told. But I don't think many people who come to ISB look for those kind of roles, and there is a certain percentage of people who look for that, but that is very minute, and there are always opportunities for people looking for that, and there are good opportunities. I think. I guess. I think the person who got the highest package in our batch was the investment banker. I think he got placed in Credit Suisse or something. So the opportunities are definitely there. It's just that you have to prepare your resume according to that. And I think if you are going for an investment banker role, I think you have to have a related background to that. It's for example, if you are going into consulting or product management, it's okay even if you don't have a solid background related to consulting or product management. You can always prepare during your MBA, but I don't think that's really possible when you go to a finance role. So that's the catch.
So what you're saying basically is there are sufficient opportunities for finance as well, but it's just that because of the sheer number of companies who come for recruitment for the consulting and product roles, even if you're not from a similar background, you have significant chances of getting into. But finance will be a little more competitive, so you have to be from a similar background to land a job in that.
Correct.
But there are good opportunities. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Second thing, like generally, how do you see placements panning out? Like, what is the sweet age? Like, I remember my time at MDI, like the people with 0 to 2 years of experience were the ones who were shortlisted the most. So was there something like that in ISB as well? Like there's a sweet age to our work experience to be in, basically.
Yeah, I mean, even before joining into ISB, I've spoken to a couple of alums, and they were like 4 to 5 years of experience is the sweet spot, and that has been true, like in my case as well. So companies generally look for people around 5 or 6 years of experience. But that doesn't mean that people with less years of experience or more years of experience doesn't get the job. There are certain companies which only look for people with 2 years or 3 years of experience, and there are companies which look for people with greater than 6 or 8 years of experience. So once you upload your resume, I think based on the eligibility criteria, you will get shortlisted to those kind of companies based on your level of experience or the seniority which you are looking for. So I think even though we can say that sweet spot is around 4 to 5 years of experience, people with all kinds of experience who get into ISB ultimately get a job.
Okay, okay. So do you know someone from your batch who had 10 plus years of experience, and what was their journey like in terms of placements? Like, if you have any experiences.
Yeah. I mean, there are many people. I'm not sure about the complete journey, but I told you, right? Like the person who worked in army for around 15 years, like
Yeah.
she got into ISB, and I think she's now placed as vice president of some portfolio in Wells Fargo in Hyderabad. So the
Okay.
opportunities are always there, and that shouldn't be a problem. Like if you, the placement might get a little delayed based on your profile and all, but ultimately there are enough number of companies even after the phase one of placements are done. So that shouldn't be a problem.
So basically, there are companies which are looking for senior roles, very senior roles like VP and others as well. So if you have high experience, it's not like you don't have opportunities at ISB. After completing your MBA, you get enough opportunities at ISB as well. That's great to know, and that's great as a validation, because when you see this on the websites and everything, but it's good to hear from a real student the real example. So that's really good to know. Great. Then, so any closing thoughts, Vamsi, about the entire application process that you want to add? I don't see people asking a lot of questions. I think we are either doing a very good job at answering their questions proactively, or not doing a good job at all. I hope it's the former, but yeah.
Yeah. So the only thing I would suggest is like as everyone knows, like there are multiple aspects like which go into every application of an MBA school. Like there are academics till your graduation. There are extracurricular activities. There is work experience, and finally there is GMAT score. So uh, assume that like there are whenever an admission committee goes through your profile, they award you certain points for every field. Like they award certain points for your academics. They award certain points for your GMAT score and all. So if you think that you are lacking in a certain aspect, make sure that you compensate that with your GMAT score or any other thing. Like as of now, uh, extracurricular activities and academics are not in your hand anymore. The only things which you can change are GMAT score and your work ex. So make sure that you concentrate on those aspects. And I would suggest you that give your best in terms of GMAT score and the essays you write, the letter of recommendation you give. So and once you are and if you get a short list, uh, feel that the school is really interested in you, and now the ball is in your court. It's just that you have to convert your call. Like it's completely up to you now. Like there is no pressure, and if you do well in that interview, you are done. Like you get your admission. So just think in those perspectives and be positive.
Really, really great to hear that from you, Vamsi. So thank you so much for being with us today and sharing your thoughts. I am going to give another couple of minutes maybe for people to ask any questions from Vamsi specifically. If you have any questions, this is the time to ask him. Uh, Otherwise, we'll say goodbye to him and for everything. But yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask him now. This is the time to put it up. If you want to check out our services, you can go to our website, which is www.gmatplus.com, and you can always email us on our email ID, which is mentioned on your screen. And in case you want to inquire about our services, I'm also going to give you a link to kind of schedule a consultation call with our team. I've also shared paid profile evaluation call. So in case anyone wants to get their profiles evaluated, you can utilize the paid profile evaluation call, which you can see in the chat as well. So in that will help you understand how good is your profile and where do you stand in terms of your target B schools and your GMAT score. So okay, so I still don't see any questions. So I think I would assume that we have done a great job. Thank you so much, Vamsi, for coming in and sharing your thoughts about the entire application process at ISB and the life at ISB. So keep doing the great work that you have been doing. Maintain your perseverance and your energy, and I'm pretty sure that you're gonna grow with each and every step. So this is basically the start of your next chapter. Like I keep saying the same. Probably when you joined ISB, I said the same thing to you. But yeah, that's how you continue growing. So please make sure that you do that, and like the sky is the limit. You know. Thank
Sure,
you.
sure, Piyush. Thank you so much. Like always happy to help, and I've been, you know, I've been at some point of time. I was one of the students who was attending those webinars. Struggling like what has to be done with respect to my GMAT and what should I do with respect to my application. So always happy to help. I'm sure this webinar is going to help many more students who want to get into ISB and any other schools. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.